All right, what's up, everybody? I wanted to do this for quite some time. Um, want to talk about being a full-time artist, doing arts and craft shows, and starting out. This is my 10th year doing it full time, throughout all the ups and downs. I think of all the things that have happened in the past 10 years, COVID being a huge one, obviously. But just wanted to give some kind of insight into uh, some of the pitfalls, some of the joys, some of the pains, and hopefully give some insight into um, being able to pull it off if it's something that you've considered doing or thought about doing. Um, when I started, my best friend Wes, he and his wife at the time were doing really well doing arts and craft shows, and they were kind of hybrid. I mean, he's an artist, a watercolor artist, so he had really beautiful paintings. Then she did stuff with letter art, but then the letter art just took off so well that they pretty much just focused on that. And this is before letter art became a thing. So we're talking a good 15 years ago, maybe even 20 years ago. And they were traveling all over the country, probably doing 30 shows a piece. And they were bringing in some really, really good money. So my introduction into doing arts and craft shows was I actually went with my buddy Wes to the Bow Arts Fair in Davenport, Iowa. And hell, I think he probably made 12 or $13,000 in that weekend. And I was completely blown away. I was like, holy hell. And I'm an artist as well. I used to work for Marvel and DC Comics, and then I got out of that and I did some murals for a while, and then I got out of that, and then I just went into management at FedEx. I was a manager there for about 13 years, and eventually found myself back into doing art again once I left FedEx, which is a whole nother long story. But the the key thing was I did that show with Wes, and he earned, 12, $13,000 on the weekend, and I thought, holy hell, if that's possible, even doing half that would be a phenomenal earning for the average person. So that was really my introduction to it. That's what got me started. And to be completely honest, I think it's really important that you have someone that you can go to and give you information and insight, which is actually part of the reason I'm doing this, because there are a million pitfalls and a million wrong turns that you can make that I won't say will knock you out of doing it, but it would just make a difficult journey that much harder. So you don't want to be ice skating uphill, for lack of a better term. So I think that's one key component, is trying to find someone that you either know or that someone you know knows, who's done shows and can give you some wonderful insight. What shows to do? Why should you do them? What's good about them? What's bad about them? What's the setup and the breakdown like? What are their requirements? Do they require you to have vendor's insurance? Which at this point, most of the reputable shows do. And that's just like car insurance. It's insurance that says that you cover that show in case anything happens at the show. And you have to have like, $1 million liability insurance, and bodily harm and all these other different things. So find someone that you can key on, that you can get information from. If you can't, or you don't know someone, don't hesitate to look up what's a reputable show. Go online and just say arts and crafts show or art show in my area, whatever, and then ask artists, ask them about the show, ask them how long they've been doing it, ask them what's good and what's bad. and try to build a rapport with someone. And it would be a good idea to look for someone who is doing something that you really like. So most of my stuff is sports themed and pop culture based. So I don't do fine art stuff. So I most likely wouldn't go to someone who paints roses on fine china. You know what I mean? I would tend to stick with someone that maybe does Star Wars or Lord of the Rings or um, athletic portraits or something like that. Just because of the familiarity, it'll be easier to discuss um, key points with them because I feel like we'd have more in common to discuss. So finding someone, doing research and going to shows, uh, the best word of mouth and the best individuals to go on are other fellow artists. Uh, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Every show promoter will tell you why their show is the best show in the world and why you're going to make tons of money. And nothing can be further from the truth because, whether you pay $100 or $1,000 for a show, you're not getting that show feedback under any circumstance. So, it's not like if the show is bad, they're going to give you your money back. It's not going to happen. So you can find out if they promote the show. You can find out if they are really vendor friendly. Some shows provide like continental breakfast, and some shows provide like booth sitters. I do my shows by myself, so I never need someone to sit in my booth. But if I did, a lot of the bigger shows provide booth sitters for you. So those are just a few things to think of. When you start out, I wouldn't advise starting the way I did. I started doing one of the biggest shows in the country, the Sauerkraut Festival in Waynesville, Ohio. That was actually my first travel show, and it's a small little podunk town southeast of Dayton, Ohio, and they just kind of shut the main street down and a couple of tributaries. But the show gets 400 to 500,000 people over 2 days. So you can imagine, having never done a show before, how overwhelming that was for me and my wife. Thank God I had her there. And I did all right. I didn't, based on the amount of people, I didn't do as much as I thought I would do, because I had visions of $12,000, and I think I maybe did $1,100 or something like that. But I only had 3 images that I had photocopies of, and I had nothing to display them on, so I just taped images on the inside of my tent walls, which in hindsight looked incredibly tacky, but I made $1,000. And what that taught me was, I think I can do this. I think I can do it. If I can just pull my stuff together and get a display and figure out what the hell's going on, I think I can sell enough product to make enough money to, earn a sustainable living. So that's just something that I was thinking as I was driving. I'm going to start basically blogging ideas, posting them. And so those are a few little notes to just think about. 1, find out about shows. Some way, somehow find out about shows. Check a show out. Find a mentor, talk to an artist. And if you're going to go for a show, like I said, the one I did, the first big one I did was huge. And that's a little overwhelming, to say the least. But all high schools, or most major high schools in every town, in every state, do kind of holiday shows. They're usually around fall. So November and December, they do something. It's like the Boosters or the band or the football team puts on a show. You know, usually they're $50 or $80 or something like that. And it's a great way to kind of introduce yourself to just the whole rigmarole of setting up and breaking down and communicating through email and finding out what you need and setting up a display. And nothing really teaches you, and this is just in general in life, nothing teaches you nearly as well as going live and doing it. I'm learning that even with YouTube. Just got to do it. You got to stumble and fumble through it and make a happy mess, or happy accidents, as Bob Ross would say, and you just live and learn. So as much research as you do, it's going to be really important that you just throw it on the wall, go for it, come hell or high water, do a show. And honestly, it can be hard. People don't mean to be rude normally. Don't mean to be rude, but they can be. You'll hear what people think of what you're providing as they walk by and say something in passing. They're not thinking you poured your heart and soul into this. They're just thinking, oh, that looks kind of funky. That's odd. Why is that like that? Or what does that mean? Or, I don't know about that. Or I don't like it. It looks too much like this. Or, you know, and they don't know that that's your very personal, very special thing that you did, that you care a ton about. And they're just walking by flippantly making comments about it. So anyhow, just something to think about. I certainly hope if you are interested in doing art shows and craft shows that you give it a go. And I hope that you find it to be as enjoyable and rewarding as I have over the past 10 years. Till then, keep crafting.